In business news today, 3 things to know. First, battle over the border when 3 of the world's most powerful men in business get involved. Now it's turning into a financial issue, and the world is indeed watching. Then, the suspense is over. King James decides to go back to where it all began for him, announcing today he's returning to Cleveland. A definite boost to the area that struggled to keep it together economically since his departure. And the summer's hottest toys, folks. Hits at the box office have helped toy retailers stay afloat. We'll show you what's packing the shelves. Arise Xchange starts right now. Hello, I'm Julian Phillips, in for Andrew Schmertz. The battle over the border is heating up after a wave of undocumented immigrant minors from Central America has border control resources spread so thin they may run out of funding by August or even September. Now, the president paid a visit to the border state of Texas to talk with leaders about solutions to the problem. However, it's not just Capitol Hill that has feelings on the issue. Wall Street is weighing in as well. Now, in an unusual move, 3 of the U.S.'s biggest businessmen, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and Sheldon Adelson, have gotten together to pen a New York Times op-ed slamming congressional inaction on immigration. All signed on to a stern of criticism of Washington's political deadlock, reminding politicians, quote, American citizens are paying 535 people to take care of the legislative needs of the country. We are getting shortchanged. A Congress that does nothing about these problems is extending an irrational policy by default. Well, the current stalemate in which greater pride is attached to thwarting the opposition than to advancing the nation's interests is depressing to most Americans and virtually all of its business managers. Of course, more on Washington's breaking immigration deadlock in a moment, but first, a quick look at today's market numbers. The Dow closing at 16,943, the S&P 500 closing at 1967, and the NASDAQ ended the day closing at 4415. Now for a look at commodities. Gold closing down at $1,338.50 an ounce, and oil closing at $100.69 per barrel. Now back to the battle over the border, which is heating up. Arise Washington Bureau Chief James Blue joins us now with more. Hello, James. How will this op-ed piece make a difference in this battle here? Do you think it'll make a difference at all?
I think it will make a difference because what these 3 titans of U.S. industry are trying to do is they're trying to sort of move this beyond a sort of political crisis and truly show that is a business crisis. Yes, they are calling on Congress to actually do something, and they are calling on American citizens to prompt Congress to do something. But what they are really pointing out is that our economy will be constrained and will not grow unless there are some solutions in bringing immigration reform to the country.
But, James, that all sounds well and good. And, of course, the immigration reform bill did pass the Senate. It's being holed up in Congress right now. I guess the question that a lot of Americans want to know, where do you point the finger of blame? Is it the Congress or is it the president like the Republicans are charging?
Well, these 3 titans have really said it is the Republican House. And they pointed out, and I think this is what was so great about the op-ed, they pointed out very specific ways in which the U.S. Government should move forward on immigration reform. You have all those college students who come here and study. They are going to school at universities subsidized by U.S. taxpayers. As soon as they graduate, they have to leave. You have the business investment visa, which actually creates jobs for Americans. If you invest $500,000, you're able to get a visa for your family. Yes, there have been problems in the program, which these 3 guys acknowledge, but what they're suggesting is why not expand the program, expand the number of people investing in the U.S., creating jobs for Americans, and at the same time granting visas to wealthy people who want to bring their money to the country. The issue is, as you've noted, the issue is how to move beyond this stalemate. And what these gentlemen are trying to do is get people to rise up against Congress, against the Republican House, and to sort of show it's a matter of the economy. If we don't do this, bad things are going to happen.
Okay, that sounds good. But then you have Governor Rick Perry coming back on the scene, as you know, talking about, well, okay, perhaps maybe the president should employ more National Guard down there, as opposed to the president's plan, which seems more comprehensive in a sense of trying to put like almost close to $4 billion into this. You've got these two different things going on here, and I think a lot of people are kind of scratching their heads and saying, well, look, where do we stand in this, and which one will actually help?
Right, and so what you really have, Julian, is a wonderful moment where you have two major immigration issues that are sort of coming together and conflating. Yes, there's a humanitarian crisis with undocumented people coming in from Central America and Mexico, but you also have a crisis where the skilled people that we need to drive and move jobs in this economy, according to these three titans of business, they're not being able to get into the country at all because they don't want to come in illegally. And so the hope is, and I think it's a very slim hope before the August recess, that these two crises may come together for some sort of solution where there is some movement. Everyone recognizes the status quo isn't working, and there is the hope that these three big business guys might get us moving in some direction.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm not as hopeful, perhaps, as many people are as you, but I'll tell you what, we can spend a lot more time on this, but we have run out of time. James Blue, as always, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. The outstanding student debt in this country stands at more than $1 trillion. That's a doozy, already surpassing credit card and auto loan debt and coming in second only to mortgage debt. So what does it mean for those 37 million graduates saddled with student loans, and what are the ripple effects to the rest of our economy? Well, here with us to talk more about the student debt crisis is Andy Lockwood, president and founder of collegeplanningGuru.com, and the author of How to Play Wholesale for College. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julian.
Now, I understand you graduated college, I think, as well as law school. I would assume perhaps a whole lot of debt. How did you manage? How did you get out of this mountain of debt?
You know what? Back in the 90s, between college and law school, I had about $100,000 worth of debt. It wasn't easy.
What? $100,000?
Yeah. Kids today are graduating college and law school and medical school with $300,000 or more.
Now, I understand basically the problem is that more people are going to college and graduate schools, which are rising costs in a lot of colleges. Explain that to me.
In terms of the rising costs?
Yes.
Well, in many regards, the student loans themselves are to blame, because what happens is that schools get funded by the government, by the student loans, and they have every incentive to keep jacking up the costs. So, in other words, when you tour a school and you see the $15 million gymnasium complete with an aquatic center and a lazy river and all these amenities, that comes from somewhere. That comes from the money that they're getting from a combination of families and the government who's lending the families the money.
Now, see, I'm thinking it comes from trustees, and also, I mean, I get calls. I went to Purdue University, and I get calls all the time. No, absolutely, the only school in town.
Okay.
But no, I really get a lot of calls, asking. They're begging for money all the time. So I'm thinking people are donating money, and I figure a lot of money would come from people who are donating generously to the colleges they graduated from.
A lot of money does come from the endowment that is raised by soliciting alumni even before they graduate, before they're actually alumni. But the loans are really fueling the college costs that have skyrocketed. They're up 1,000% in the last 30 years. Healthcare's up 700%. Cost of living is up 300%.
Okay,
it's crazy.
You're here for one reason and one reason only: to make sure people understand how they can perhaps reduce their debt. What should students, parents, families do to make sure they can reduce the amount of debt after you receive a degree? Okay,
there's a few things. So the first thing is, before you finalize your list of colleges, you need to understand that some colleges have much more to give than others. So you need to really understand which colleges are more generous and focus on those types of schools. The second thing is it's understanding how the financial aid system works. So in many regards, you're penalized for doing the right thing. If you save money in your kids' names, that can actually hurt you in terms of how much you will qualify for in terms of free money.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. There's all sorts of weird, counterintuitive, Byzantine-type regulations that really affect your ability to qualify. So you will end up taking on more debt if you have money saved in the wrong places. It's not how much you've saved, it's where you've saved it. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, colleges negotiate. People don't realize that they're businesses. They think of colleges as these, like in the graphic at the beginning of the segment, these ivy-covered walls, ivory tower, that type of thing. But they're in business and they're out there. That's why they're soliciting you, so the Boilermakers can have another great basketball and football season.
But see, that's the key.
Yeah.
See, if I had a kid, he'd have to be a franchise player. So I'm going to full ride.
LeBron.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on in the show.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, you can negotiate with colleges to bring down the cost of the tuition.
We had an example this year. This is now 8 weeks ago, where we had a client. I can't say his name because his mom wouldn't want this to get out. But he got into Harvard and Yale, and Harvard and Yale each looked at the same financial aid forms that that the mom completed, and Harvard gave $30-something thousand. Yale gave zero.
Wow.
Bizarre. So they went to Yale. The parents went back to Yale and said, "Hey, wait a minute. Here's what Harvard offered us. Is there anything you can do?" And Yale came up $40,000 from zero.
Okay, we got like 15 seconds left. What about instead of some of these big schools like Big Ten, Pac-10 and all that kind of stuff, like some of the state universities where the tuition is a lot cheaper?
Tuition is cheaper, but it's growing. It's actually grown disproportionately compared to private schools. State schools don't have as much money, so you might be better off at private schools that have more of an endowment.
Andy Lockwood, that'll have to be the last word.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All righty. Coming up, the king of the court makes a big announcement. Where LeBron James will play next season, and why should you care when Arise Xchange returns? Stay with us.
I think news does make people put things in black and white terms just so that they have a dividing line between what their viewers like and dislike.
When they see a person of color, they either think that they're not going to do anything, they're either on drugs or they got pregnant at an early age, and I just want to say that that's not true.
It tends to reflect more the interests of the upper income people and the upper income interests.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
Welcome back to Arise Xchange. Time now for our business ticker, stories making headlines across the nation. Corporate earnings season is underway, and Wall Street is banking on companies delivering a profit. Today's Wells Fargo kicked off earnings reports for big banks in the U.S., reporting revenue of $5.42 billion, which was in line with expectations. Now, the bank credited the strong numbers to lowered expenses and high returns on assets. Wells Fargo shares closing down today to $51.49. A huge shakeup in the tobacco industry is in its final phase. Reynolds American and Lorillard, two of the country's largest and oldest cigarette companies, say they are in final talks for a possible merger. The move would create the second largest tobacco manufacturer in the U.S. behind Marlboro maker Altria. Well, Taco Bell is looking to beef up its menu. The fast food chain is rolling out a new Cantina Power menu featuring steak bowls and burritos loaded with sour cream. I could say something about that, but I won't. All the options will have at least 20 grams of protein and less than 500 calories. Now, they say it's a hearty alternative to its low-fat, diet-friendly menus that Taco Bell says just isn't fulfilling its customers' appetites. It's all about the taste, folks. Well, it's official. All the speculation is over with serious issues dominating the world. LeBron James was all the talk today, and it seems the world, at least the U.S., stood still until he announced where he was going. To say Cleveland Cavaliers fans are jumping for joy is probably just a little bit of an understatement. Cleveland as a whole felt the absence of the king at court. Experts say revenues for the city plummeted after his departure. What does the return mean for the city and the National Basketball Association as a whole? Well, for that, we turn to NBA expert and Source magazine writer Brandon "Scoop" Robinson. And you are here. Well, actually, the scoop is ahead of you this time because we already know what the deal is.
Yes.
But this is really a big deal. Obviously, Cleveland, they're elated.
Yeah, definitely. They're elated because their prodigal son has come home.
But here's what I didn't really know or understand. How much economically this meant for the city when he left. We're talking about people losing business, a lot of money being lost. How did all this happen?
Well, a lot of it was, obviously, LeBron was the first pick in the 2003 NBA draft, drafted by the hometown of Cleveland Cavaliers. He's from nearby Akron, about 20 minutes from Cleveland. And the downtown area was hopping when the king was in town. You know, a lot of people came before games and after games to various shops and various, places to just enjoy a good time to watch him play. When he left, it wasn't the same, not to mention the fact that the Cavaliers the last few years really have struggled to play well.
So you really think that by him coming back there, this is going to be an economic boom to Ohio itself?
Oh, absolutely. I spoke to a buddy of mine that's out that writes for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and he was just talking about how miserable it was, obviously, for the team to be losing. And then, I mean, who would want to sit and enjoy that? He was a coming attraction. LeBron was Madison Avenue in Cleveland. And to bring that star-studded attraction, and, you know, Vegas is already predicting that the Cavaliers will be next year's NBA champion. All of that combined is a coming attraction, not just locally, but from afar. I
think that's kind of a stretch, but that's my own personal opinion.
Sure.
But here's the thing. What does this mean for LeBron economically? Obviously, this was a dollar and cents move for him, I would think. Why did he come back?
Yes and no. Actually, because LeBron was a member of the Miami Heat and he opted out of his contract, he left some money on the table. The Miami Heat could offer him the most money, but LeBron was looking to be a max player. Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, the figures were somewhere in the $80 million range for, I think, a 4 or 5 year tender. But $20 million in the first year of his contract he'll be able to make. But it wasn't just about money. Number one, it was a guy from Northeast Ohio being able to come home after he left after the confusion of the decision that was nationally broadcasted 4 years ago. But in addition to that, Cleveland has upgraded. Their point guard, Kyrie Irving, 5 year, $95 million contract. The Cavs announced it yesterday. In addition to that, they also got Canadian star Andrew Wiggins. There's a global appeal. They have 3 Canadians on that team, and Tristan Thompson and Anthony Bennett as well. In addition to that, they're a new team. They're a team. Kyrie Irving, the star of that team, is 22 years old. So there's youth. LeBron will be 30 in December.
Well, there's a bigger picture here, Walt.
Sure.
We're talking about the days, you know, when I played ball and stuff like that. It was on the college level, not pro. But, you know, you were a glorified, I hate to use the word a glorified slave, but you were drafted. You had to go where you had to go. You were traded and stuff like that. But here now we see players that have more of a hand in their own destiny. Carmelo Anthony is shopping around right now, and there are a lot of who hope that he leaves New York. But the fact of the matter is he kind of controls his own destiny to a certain, and we're seeing that more for the franchise players.
The NBA always has been a players' league. I mean, obviously the owners cut the checks, but the players, you know, with the AAU culture, we're now in the second wave of AAU. Is no longer a grassroots type of organization. Guys have known each other since they were in 8th and 9th grade. Carmelo Anthony, obviously the Knicks can offer him the most money at $136 million. I believe that is over 5 or 6 years. But it's not just about the money anymore. Guys want to win. They're worried about their legacies and how they would go about it. They grew up watching Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Karl Malone, those guys who had great individual careers.
Yeah, but they need to learn how to play as a team. We got to wrap it.
Yes, sir.
And that's a lot of what others are doing. Brandon, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
All right.
Ahead, companies' fascination with drones and why you should be concerned. You're watching Arise Exchange.
Because we live in a global, interconnected world, business news no longer stops when the markets close on Wall Street. And what we've discovered over the past few years of the financial crisis is that events and news that happen even in the smallest countries impact the United States and the world at large. As we bring together experts and analysts and thought leaders and CEOs and companies across many industries to not only provide the macroeconomic view, but news everyday people can use.
Arise News is a different kind of network. We are able to tell our own stories, and we're able to cover stories in a way that other media outlets don't do. We've got world-class journalists, veteran journalists who have been in this industry for decades, not just in front of the camera, but behind the scenes as well. Arise News is a place where we can tell stories in an interesting, factual, inclusive way like no one else in the business can.
I don't think that television news in the United States reflects the diversity of the world. I don't think it does a great job of even reflecting diversity of the United States.
When you are watching TV, you don't really see a lot of different cultures. There are plenty of other places that people might not even know about.
We are living in a global culture, and you cannot hide news that is happening when there's so much social media.
Arise News, every culture, every angle.
Welcome back to Arise Exchange. Online retailer Amazon is just one of a few companies interested in including drones as part of its company arsenal of goodies. The company is asking the Federal Aviation Administration for an exemption to rules that prohibit the use of drones for commercial purposes. And on the personal front, hackers are using drones to steal private information from unsuspecting cell phone users. Technology. Well, cybersecurity expert and Berkeley Variatronics CEO Scott Schober joins us again on the Exchange to explain what drones actually are and what we can do as consumers to protect ourselves. Welcome back. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
I got to tell you, I'm fascinated with these things here. But I mean, my God, I mean, these things can do almost. Explain what you have a problem.
Sure.
What is this?
Absolutely. This is a very typical drone here that a consumer can buy. This is priced about $300 or so, and it's controlled by Wi-Fi from a standard iPhone or Android-like device. So I could take my phone and I can control this 100%, fly it around through the Wi-Fi connection. And then what I have here is a tool that I actually can use to find a drone. So imagine this is flying or hovering over your house or your office, and you wanted to hunt it down. You could do that. You could scan and look for it, and with this direction-finding antenna, you could actually say, hey, I'm being followed by a drone. Or
Okay, and we got to get into this, too, because
Sure.
I assume this is not just something that can fly. I bet you this thing has a camera attached to it.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay. That's the key here.
Right here. It's got a high-definition camera, if you could see it there, and you can actually hone
It's right
in
there, yeah,
and look at people, spy on them, or whatever the case may be. And, of course, it's used for legitimate purposes, real estate agents, surveyors, things of that sort. But once it gets in the hands of hackers, that's where the problem
Okay,
happens.
we're talking about stealing information, and that's very dangerous. But also, there was an article I was reading about a woman who was in her bedroom or whatever, and all of a sudden she turned to the window, and there's a drone out there that's looking at her. And as soon as she saw it to get a camera to take a picture, the drone like kind of disappeared, and there were like two people in the car. I mean, this is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, and these things are happening every single day. There's cases where people are spying on others on the beach, looking in windows, doing other things for spying.
All right, but here, let's go to Amazon for
Sure.
the business side of this.
Yeah.
They want to use this. They're saying for commercial purposes, but within the confines, though, of their complex where
Yes.
they can test this. And they're saying that their rules are more stringent than the FAA's. And if the FAA doesn't adhere to this, they'll take this outside. But Scott, you got to believe that they're only going to use this for a time when they think they can make deliveries with packages. And we've seen that in Russia, where they're actually delivering pizzas with drones.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, and they're trying to keep it in the confines of their private property just to test it out and get all the kinks out. And then hopefully the ruling, end of next September 2015, the FAA will hopefully loosen standards for them and allow commercial use for drones for delivering of packages, and it's under 5 pounds, and the drone has to weigh less than 55 pounds.
Okay, do you see a point where this will become a reality?
It is certainly possible. I get concerned certainly from the security aspects of it, because
Sure.
if you've got drones flying around, who's going to regulate this? It's not like
Exactly.
aircraft. They actually can prevent aircraft from crashing into one another. And we see occasionally that even goes awry. So with drones, can you imagine just civilians flying this around, or even businesses? It'd be a mess.
But they basically already are with these drones in terms of anybody can get their hands on one.
Yeah,
That's
from a
a dangerous
hobbyist standpoint, we fly these all the time, and it's fun, and you could have fun outside, and you do aerial shots and things like that. But now imagine this times hundreds of thousands of these things flying around, spying on people or hacking into your phone. That's where it's serious.
Right. And what you're saying here, it'd be very hard to regulate that and also provide security.
Extremely hard.
In a sense.
Yeah, and that's where we're selling these tools to law enforcement and such, so they can actually hunt it down for the bad guys that are trying to do these type of things.
I'm going to buy one. How much does that cost?
This guy's $5,500, the Yellow Jacket DF. So it's a little bit more pricey than obviously a $300 drone.
I'll rent one. Scott Schober, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay. Next, it's not even Christmas yet, and toys are flying off the shelves this summer. Find out why when Arise Exchange returns.
If I was building my own news network, first thing I think I'd want high-quality reporters, very educated, intelligent people.
Hello, I'm Francesca Maxime.
I'm Julian Phillips.
I'm Wendy Gillette.
I'm Sophia Songhai.
I'm Gary Anthony Ramsey. Thank you for joining us here in New York City.
I would like to see more people of color represented in high positions in media.
We've got world-class journalists, veteran journalists who have been in this industry for decades, not just in front of the camera, but behind the scenes as well.
People need to understand the problems that are going on in the community are much closer than we actually think they are.
Kayla Phillips is one of the shoppers who is suing Barney's, and she is here with her attorney. What is it that you want from them?
Not to judge every African-American person that comes in your store.
Now you're going to love this. Toy manufacturers and sellers are expecting the summer toy business to be much better than last year, even if the weather doesn't cooperate. One of the key sales drivers are product tie-ins from blockbuster movies and television hits, folks. And here were some examples of the summer's hottest toys. It's Marissa DiBartolo, senior editor of the Toy Insider and the Big Toy Book. Well, welcome to Arise Exchange.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you're much younger than me.
I am?
I'm a relic. I'm a fossil. Stickball, okay? Tops and stuff like that.
Don't worry, classics are still around. They're still around.
Okay.
They just might look a little different.
I mean, the kids, they have it made now. Look, let's get into this.
Yeah,
You're
let's
talking
do
about
it.
a lot of toys that are coming from blockbuster hits and TV shows.
Exactly. So there are tons of summer blockbuster movies that kids love, and having toys based off movies gets kids are able to take home a little piece of that movie magic with them. So we have DreamWorks' How to Train Your Dragon 2. That was a big hit, and then in August we have some even newer films coming out like Guardians of the Galaxy.
What is this thing?
This is a new Marvel film. So this is Star-Lord. He's the main hero in the film.
But how do you play? This is like a glorified G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
I guess.
he's a real serious action figure.
Oh.
Funny Rocket. He's ready to go.
Oh, my
Then we
goodness.
have Turtles.
Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Uh-huh. Cowabunga.
Yep, they're coming back to the big screen this year.
Okay.
And then even though it's hot outside, we have to talk about Frozen. This is Disney's #1 property, and kids love the film. So even though it's hot, she is still selling like crazy. Retailers cannot keep Frozen products on the shelves.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you have this little dragon down here.
Yeah, this is from DreamWorks, How to Train Your Dragon 2. If you want to just pull his head back. Whoops.
Oh, my goodness.
Yep.
So
he shoots his little launcher, and look, now he's ready to fly.
Oh, my goodness. Give me a break. All right, let's move on here.
So now we have some messy toys. Kids love to make a mess in the summertime. We get to take all the mess outside, so mom's happy. It's easy cleanup. So this is some scatter spray. If you want to pick that up and pull the trigger. This way, this way. Whoops, careful.
Wait a minute, you told me to pull it this way.
Gotta go this way. Right here. Woo, there you go.
Oh,
nice,
okay.
fun, messy
well, you know
toys
you gotta pay
for
for
kids.
this. There you go.
Fair is fair,
That doesn't
fair is
work
fair.
for me. I got a dud.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
Still fun.
I remember as a kid, we had a little plastic stem with like a hole on it. You dipped it into some
Bubbles.
soap and this, but now you've got a machine here.
Yes, now we have
Look
a
at
much
this
more
mess.
high-tech way to play. So this is the Bubble Funtasia. You press this button and you get thousands of bubbles in just a few seconds.
Oh, that's nice. Let me try that.
Go ahead.
I'm a big kid.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
It's a lot of fun.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's great.
Andrew would love this. Can I take this?
You can.
I love it.
So now chalk. Everyone knows sidewalk chalk, right? But now Crayola is stepping it up, and they have grab-and-go games. So now you get chalk and accessories. So kids can create big game boards on the ground and then play with the accessories. So they have a whole new way to play.
This reminds me more of something that I used to have as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like there's this game that was called
This is
Skelly,
a
where you would
classic.
fill like a top of like Hellman's mayonnaise and put wax in it, and you just scoot it across the board, and you would have to use chalk in order to make the board.
Yeah, so there you go. Nice and familiar for you, right?
Now, what are we talking about in terms of prices on
This
some
is
of this
only $6.50. Nice low price point. Keeps mom and dad happy, right?
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
I want to go to one thing here.
Okay, let's do it.
I wish our director, Jack Nisi, was in here.
Okay, so water blasters are nothing new, but they get bigger every year. So this is the Nerf Super Soaker Tri-Strike Crossbow.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's got quite a name, but it's a lot of fun. So you can shoot this water from here like a regular blaster.
Okay, let's get to it.
All right, go ahead. Where are you shooting it?
Well, wait, how do you do this?
You just pump this right like this. There you go.
Oh, that's all?
That's it.
Who can I get here? This is fantastic.
Yeah, okay, now watch. There's two ways to play with this guy. So you pull this trigger, and bam, now you got a crossbow with 3 water streams. So pump the button again.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
How about that?
Now I'm Robin Hood of Life.
Everyone's getting soaked.
Maid Marian. This is great. So, I mean, how much does something like this run?
So this one is only $24.99. So everything I brought with me today is under $25, which is really a great price point. That's exactly where parents want to be when they're gift giving. So that's really great for manufacturers.
That scooter over there, can we get that real quick?
This one is a really fun ride-on. So ride-ons are a great way to get kids active. This is the Razor Jr. Zombie Kick Scooter. So not only do you get active play, but you get imaginative play. So kids can hold on to the handlebars and feel just like a zombie.
All right, Marissa, I think you got some great toys here. I think I'm converted. Anyway, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
having me. I think I'll
having
buy
me.
this for some of my little nieces and nephews.
Yes, absolutely.
And we want to point out it's the 40th anniversary of the best-selling toy of all time. Hundreds of millions of the brightly colored cubes have been sold since its inception. We're marking the milestone of the giant Rubik's Cube. And a giant Rubik's Cube is actually cruising down the Hudson River, New York. Take a look at that. I could never figure that thing out. Anyway, that's all for Rise Exchange. Thanks for watching and enjoy your weekend. I'm Julian Phillips. Andrew is back on Monday.